Committee rooms in the National Assembly get busy with budget defense sessions. Senate committee tackles the federal government on planned $200 million loan for the purchase of mosquito nets. Also on the program, more shocking revelations as House of Representatives investigates the operations of real estate developers in the FCT. This is the Hallowed Chambers. I am Tijesu Adiri. Standing committees of the two chambers of the National Assembly have commenced budget defense meetings with their respective ministries, departments and agencies. The Parliament is now very busy and committee rooms are constantly engaged with this crucial legislative assignment. In the Senate, lawmakers rejected the federal government's plan to borrow $200 million to buy mosquito nets and malaria drugs.
Budget defense sessions begin at the Senate wing of the National Assembly. Ministries, departments and agencies of government appear before committees of the Senate to defend their budget performance for 2021 and their 2022 spending plan. The Ministry of Water Resources at this budget defense hearing says 99% of its budget was spent on completing abandoned water projects across the country. The ministry says it identified more than 400 abandoned water projects, with some dams sited at odd locations.
We have about 20 projects between dams, irrigation and water supply that we are taking as priority. At least let us finish them. We will not be able to finish all the 20, I know, unfortunately. But at least by 2023, before we leave office, many will be, out of these 20 will be finished. But those that are not finished would have gone a substantial way.
We are not unaware of the importance of this great ministry and will do our best as legislators to assist through the act of legislation by ensuring that your budget sells through the Appropriations Committee.
The minister also presented a budget proposal of 81 billion naira for the ministry and 70.4 billion for agencies under the ministry. The Senate's Committee on Health has also denied a request by the Federal Ministry of Health to borrow $200 million to buy mosquito nets and malaria drugs for 13 states across the country. The committee queried how the ministry could come up with such a proposal despite the 450 million naira already provided in the 2022 budget to tackle malaria.
Ahead of the Anambra State governorship election on November 6th, the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters got briefings from the INEC leadership on the level of preparedness amidst security threats.
The preparedness of INEC in the Anambra election. We are very much concerned with the insecurity situation in Anambra State, and that we cannot afford not to hold the election on the 6th. Therefore, as a committee on electoral matters and INEC, we decided to invite INEC and all the security chiefs to brief us how prepared they are for the election.
INEC is ready for the Anambra governorship election in the next 10 days. That is on Saturday, 6 November 2021. When we released the timetable for the election on the 19th of January this year, we identified 14 activities that had to be accomplished leading to the election, from the publication of notice to election day. And as of today, we have successfully accomplished 12 out of the 14 activities on schedule. The only outstanding activities are the last day of campaign by political parties, which is going to be in the next 8 days, 24 hours to the election, that is Thursday, 4th November 2021, and the election day proper.
A detailed account of how government workers and real estate developers allegedly defraud unsuspecting citizens of their hard-earned money was presented to the ad hoc committee of the House, probing operations of the real estate developers in the nation's seat of power.
In the relevant legislation that empowers some real estate developers while they capitalize on this opportunity to also operate with impunity, sometimes subverting the dreams and billions of naira of hard-working Nigerians.
Of complaints and petitions from purchasers have highlighted multifaceted challenges such as fraud, depreciating of contract terms, failure to deliver homes to purchasers who have paid in full after many years.
Public servants who are desperate for their own homes subvert the processes, government policies, and they abuse their office for private gain in order to meet the desire for decent housing.
We have equally seen very clearly from our inspection reports that some payments are made through BDCs. There is no record to show that buyer A is the one making payment for property A.
Legislators took time off their primary duty of lawmaking to pray. Christian federal lawmakers held the 11th Intercessory National Breakfast Session in Abuja. They prayed for peace, security, growth, and development.
A good number of Nigerians have taken over the role of God by failing to place their trust in Him and placing it entirely on themselves and other men.
It is God's call to His people to take action, to rise up in faith, seize opportunity for God to demonstrate that He is God over the nations, He is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and that He knows the beginning from the end.
God measures us according to our faith. Our spiritual rating is according to our faith. Our spiritual classification is our faith. Faith. Lose your faith, you have lost your life.
A former member of the House and now a member of the 9th Senate, Emmanuel Okejeff, talks to me on the activities of the National Assembly, insecurity, and a host of other issues. Stay with us. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Hallowed Chambers, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with the 16 trillion naira appropriation bill currently before the National Assembly. Do you think this budget is feasible?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it's flattering to Nigerians to see that we have budgeted so much for their welfare and other things, but the reality is that we don't have the money to fund the budget. That's why every year, year in, year out, you're talking about deficit budgeting. And for me, we should be realistic. That's just the summary of it. We are not realistic at all with these numbers. I've said it on other platforms, and I will restate it here that until we come to, there's this balance, this talk about cutting your coat according to your size or the size of your coat. We don't abide by that saying at all.
Do you think the borrowing to mitigate all these shortfalls is the way to go?
You see, the suspicion that Nigerians always do have about borrowing is that we talk about borrowing huge sums of money. At the end of the day, there's not much on the ground to see to see what that borrowing has been, how it has been applied. And so let's do things according to our capacity. Borrowing is not exactly bad. America, about the greatest country on earth, still borrows. In fact, it's about the greatest borrower. But they borrow and you see the effects of the borrowing. My problem here is that you borrow huge sums of money in dollars, and at the end of the day, maybe it's funding overheads, personnel. It's okay to take care of your personnel and overheads, but what are we leaving for future generations?
So are you saying this because you belong to the opposition?
Any party I belong to, I'm always their greatest critic. When I was in the APC, I used to be their greatest critic because I like for things to go normally. I like for things to be done right. Of recent, I have been a great critic of the PDP, the way things were going, until recently that they have started to sort themselves out. So I'm not one to sit here and begin to talk along political lines. That's the way I look at things.
All right, we see that budget defense sessions have fully taken off at the Senate wing of the National Assembly. What are your expectations, considering the fact that we have seen a lack of cooperation between the MDAs and lawmakers in times past?
You see, the problem we've had in the past 1 year or more is that because of the COVID-19, we've not been able to apply the oversight function effectively. It is in the course of oversight that you find a lot of of the things that are going on in the MDAs. What happens during the budgeting defense sessions are, for me, they are cosmetic because they come and the time is not enough. So I don't expect the best to come out of it, unfortunately. But we have to do our duty, and I don't know to what extent we can effectively check some of the things that the MDAs are claiming they deal with the money that was allocated to them, since we didn't have the good opportunity because of the COVID protocols that have been in place for quite a while. So, but we are doing it.
But the Senate has also reiterated the fact of the importance of oversight functions. How are we seeing this play out with lawmakers?
Of course, it was in the legislative agenda of the 9th Assembly, as read out by the Senate President. But nobody foresaw that soon after that we'll have to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's something that came, I mean, it wasn't something that was foreseen. So I'm sure everybody will understand. You can't be preaching that people should observe the protocols, and you that are leaders will be breaching them. People will not take you serious. So I think this is something everybody will understand that we couldn't do. It has been going on in some form, but certainly not in the form that we expected it to happen, or in the form that the Constitution anticipates should happen between the legislative and the other arms of government.
So you're a member of the Senate Committee on Information and Communications Technology, and your committee met with the minister. How can the gains in the sector be enhanced in the face of the rising cybercrime in the country?
Incidentally, last year, I think it was last year, latter part of last year, due to flowing from a resolution on the floor of the Senate that we should go around and see the level of compliance of the MDA with ICT, compatibility. We went there and we assessed things for ourselves. So I'm in a position to say a word or two about, how to, what we saw was that I think every MDA is aware that we are living in times that they just have to use modern technology, ICT technology. What was lacking, in my opinion, was the threat, the cyber threat that we've been, that certainly is. For now, the level of cyber threat is low. One, because Nigeria is below the radar as far as these international criminals are concerned. But we've had to battle the local cyber criminals here, who are targeting, who target some of this infrastructure like CBN, like other banks, and everybody. Personally, I have been, my mail account has been breached quite on several times, on several occasions rather. As the last one, as late as, was it last month or two weeks back? Okay, so everybody is vulnerable. What I came away with, or the committee came away with, was the fact that we need to do more in terms of empowering personnel across the MDS to be ready to counteract the activities of these cyber criminals. So far, we are not yet there. Some few MDAs have really empowered themselves to be able to do that, but most of them, they will have computers, they will put the usual cyber stuff. But these people are very sophisticated, and that may not be enough.
Is there any form of intervention from the committee, legislative intervention from the committee to control this cyber?
Definitely. Last year we held a virtual meeting, which was attended by more than 50 countries, virtually that is. And most of these major tech companies in the country were there even physically, and almost all the MDAs were invited. In my opinion, it was a very successful one. The idea was to cross-fertilize ideas as to how to deal with the situation. And I think most of the participants went away with commendations for the committee for that. There are at least one bill in the works in the Senate trying to fine-tune the legal framework for, it's a new development, and we are yet learning how it operates. But there's a bill in the Senate that is trying to put together a robust legal framework for the operations of the industry.
And what level has this bill gotten to?
I think we have taken second reading
The Senate has finally bowed to pressure to allow an electronic transfer of election results. What level of confidence does this give our electoral system in the face of growing skepticism and apathy?
Let me place on record that even during the voting, I voted for electronic transmission, as all my colleagues in the PDP. It became a matter of politics, and it was very unfortunate because you find somebody from, say, Lagos standing up to say, I oppose electronic transmission because there's not enough network in my place. People from places that you know shouldn't be saying that, but they did because of politics. Thank God they came round to the cries of Nigerians, and now the Senate can take glory in the fact that they have now yielded to the cries of Nigerians. That is the way it should go. If you look at the way that was framed, there shouldn't have been any problem with that. They said, INEC can do that where it is practicable. So where if you come from an environment that is not practicable to use electronic transmission, I mean, we can use the manual ways that we've been using. So I don't know why people had issues with that, but thank God Nigerians have got what they wanted, and the Senate as a whole, irrespective of party affiliation, can take glory for that.
Okay, so there's so much fuss about Nigeria borrowing $200 million for mosquito nets and malaria drugs. What is your view about?
It's a crying shame, and I think that is a blot on the image of our administration. Nobody should have even talked about that. We have the problem that we have. Nobody should have. I think the person that even started that idea should be queried. That's my opinion, because it's a big embarrassment. I mean, we have mosquito, we have malaria as a problem here, but certainly I think that it makes us a laughing stock. I'm sure it will not go nowhere, but that it was thought of in the first place is something that should be rebuked.
Okay, let's move to the state of security in the nation. You are from Benue State, the food basket of the nation. There are growing concerns about the imminent food scarcity caused by the herders-farmers conflict. What is the current situation, and could this also be the reason for the hike in prices of food?
Yeah, you see, Benue is not called food basket of the nation for nothing. It's because we are actually an agrarian society. 90%, if not more, of the population is involved in one form of farming or the other. Even those who are with white-collar jobs, they find time to indulge in farming. And then you find suddenly, if you go to Benue now, you have IDP camps that are populated by hundreds of thousands of Benue indigenes. You don't need any fortune teller to tell you that with that scenario, it's just a matter of time. And the time is already here that a lot of people are going hungry. The Benue people will not even have enough food to feed, not to talk of selling to other parts of the country, as was the case. And so it's really unfortunate. And unfortunately, it's no longer Benue. Benue is no longer in isolation. Virtually every part of the country is now affected. You go to places like Zamfara, some that were known for rice farming. They are involved. They are also experiencing the insecurity. Virtually every part I don't even have to name names. Every part of the country is involved. So it's a matter of priority. It should be a matter of priority, number one priority for the administration. Well, thank God the president said he doesn't want to go out of office humiliated when it comes to issues of insecurity. I felt good when I heard that at least he is aware that this types of insecurity across the nation has come to his knowledge. And so he has the responsibility to ensure that something is done drastically, because it's getting from bad to worse. If you get to a point that rail lines are being blown away, the Global Terrorism Index has placed Nigeria as the third country most impacted by terrorism. You know, that's huge. Only next to Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, that is not the kind of notoriety that Nigeria should be acquiring at this time. But that is what we have. So we have a responsibility.
Lawmakers from your region, what have you done to, make sure that this situation is being salvaged?
Let me tell you that hardly, from my days in the House of Reps to now as a senator, hardly any sitting week goes by without at least a few motions coming up on the floor of the House to draw attention of the federal government to the issues of insecurity. Because make no mistake about it, this is one area that enjoys federal character, if you like, because every area is impacted by insecurity. So when you bring the motion, hardly can anybody stand up and say, no, I'm opposing that motion, because your turn will come. Okay, so we've been drawing attention, but people should remember the role of the legislature. You know, we can only back. Biting is in the realm of or rather in the domain of the executive. And we've been drawing attention. Sometimes we'll call them, hold closed-door meetings. If there are any areas of intervention that you think we can step in, tell us. We've been doing that to show that we are very concerned, right from my days in the House of Reps and now. And it's getting worse, increasingly worse. So from our end, we are ready. And if you look at, we are in the budgeting system. Since my stay in the National Assembly, this is my 14th year, I am not aware that any time the budget of the security people comes in a National Assembly, we will slash it. If anything, they will step it up. That is a measure of concern, for the situation on the ground, to ensure that we assist them. So in the domain of the legislature, I think we've been doing the best that we can.
There seems to be APC, PDP seems to be at loggerheads. Is this what is needed at this point in time?
PDP, APC is at loggerheads across the country. It's not just in Benue, because these are the major parties. Republican.
But aren't you supposed to put aside these differences in the interest of the nation?
See, we are getting into, well, ideally we are not supposed to do that, but we are getting into the political season, and parties want to control control affairs when it comes to the election season. And so it is not totally surprising. It happens everywhere, in all fairness to what is happening in Benue and elsewhere. It happens in America. There are over 100 parties. But, you find the Democratic and the Republican Party always fighting among themselves. Well, maybe not fighting crudely the way sometimes we do here, but they do fight, because the party that is in government is fighting to keep that position. The opposition party is fighting to replace them when the election season is around the corner. That is exactly what is happening. At least we are not hearing of violence, fighting on the streets. So if it's a battle of ideas, there's no problem about that.
Okay, let's talk about the crisis of the Southeast and the clamor for additional states to make 6 other geopolitical zones. Do you think this is the way to go?
Well, you see, we fought a civil war in this country. The Southeast called themselves Biafra, and we fought a civil war, and we came together. And Gawon brought the 3 R's, which was meant to reconcile the Southeast along with their other Nigerian brothers. So for me, if you have we have 6 geopolitical zones. Each of them has at least 6, with Northwest having 7. Now, the Southeast have the least in terms of spread. I don't know whether it's truly it's because of their numbers, but if that is becoming such a sore point, I have no issues at all. I have no issues giving them the additional one. In the times that we have a lot of insecurity, if we bend over backwards, to yield to that demand, I don't think it's asking too much, in my opinion, for reasons of fairness.
What is your own assessment of the executive and the legislature relationship, and how would you say the 9th Senate has performed so far?
Well, in terms of relationship, brilliant, because you know how tumultuous it was, and the executive was always citing, we are not doing this because of the fight between the 2 arms of government. Now they don't have such excuses. So they can't begin to say, we are not performing because we don't have. It's brilliant to the extent that people call us a rubber stamp 9th Assembly. That is the extent to which we have, or the 9th Assembly has bent over backwards to accommodate the decision. Posterity will tell whether that partnership was the best or otherwise. But for now, in terms of relationship, yes, we have. And in the 8th Assembly, we passed over 300 bills. less than 50 of them were signed into law. And some of them are in a vantage position that I was as the chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business. Sometimes I would bite my fingers to explain to myself why some of those bills were rejected. Take the electoral bill, for instance. 4 times, I think 4 times it was sent, 4 times it was rejected. And some of the things that they will note, we will correct them and take it back, and they will find new stuff. Until the last time they said, oh, it's too close to an election to sign that bill. You know, you don't have such any longer. Almost every bill that is taken, passed by the National Assembly is taken to the presidency and is signed. So perhaps there are certain things we can count as being the good part of the relationship between the executive and the legislature.
Okay, on a final note, Christian legislators are holding intercessory prayers for Nigeria. Do you think this is a positive change, or this is a way to go for the country?
Yeah, you can't have overdose of prayers. If you pray every 5, the Muslims pray 5 times a day, you know. So if Christians are praying, I mean, we need tons and tons of prayers, because at the state that we are in, no prayers would be said to be too much. So we need the prayers. We need not just the Christian legislators, we need everybody to pray, because Nigeria is at the crossroads as it is.
That's our program for the week. You can watch the program again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. Also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and all other social media platforms. My name is Tijesu Adeoye. Thank you for watching. See you next time.